There is a silent theft happening inside many Christian homes, and it does not arrive dressed in darkness. It comes smiling. It sits comfortably in your living room. It speaks softly. It entertains you after a long day. And while you think nothing is happening, something sacred is slowly being taken from you. I speak today with a heavy but loving warning. Not everything that calms your mind preserves your soul. Not everything that seems harmless is spiritually neutral. There are voices entering your house every day that you did not pray for. Images shaping your inner world without asking your permission. Messages slowly numbing your discernment while convincing you that everything is fine. And the most dangerous part is this: you do not feel attacked. You feel relaxed. You feel entertained. You feel safe. That is why this moment matters now. That is why you must not treat this as just another message. When you comment under this message, you are not just typing words. You are taking a spiritual position, saying before God and before the unseen realm, I choose to be awake. And when you subscribe, you are not following a channel. You are choosing continued protection, continued discernment, access to truths that many prefer not to hear because comfort has replaced vigilance. This is not about popularity. This is about survival of the spirit in an age of distraction disguised as rest. Many believers pray for protection while allowing constant spiritual noise to disciple them daily. Programs designed to appear innocent, familiar, even family-friendly, slowly normalize attitudes that dull reverence, mock holiness, and reframe sin as something understandable, acceptable, even humorous. You sit down thinking you are resting your body, but your spirit is being exposed. Exposure without resistance always creates influence. The enemy no longer needs to persecute when he can pacify. He no longer needs to frighten when he can entertain. What once would have shocked your conscience now passes without reaction, not because it is right, but because repetition has softened your spiritual senses. Scripture warns us to guard the heart, because from it flows life. Yet many guard their doors better than their eyes, their schedules better than their inner altar. Slowly, subtly, a breach forms, not through rebellion, but through neglect, not through hatred of God, but through distraction from Him. The deception is not obvious. If it were clearly evil, you would reject it. That is why it comes clothed in familiarity. Stories that subtly redefine good and evil. Humor that gently erodes respect for sacred things. Conversations that seem harmless but plant seeds of fear, cynicism, and moral confusion. You are not told to deny God. You are simply encouraged to stop thinking about Him for a while. Then a while becomes a habit becomes a lifestyle. The spirit becomes quieter, not because He left, but because your inner ear has been trained to listen elsewhere. When you wonder why prayer feels dry, why the word feels distant, why sensitivity is gone, rarely do they suspect the little things that were never questioned. This is not condemnation. This is mercy calling your attention. Discernment is not fear. It is love that refuses to be careless. The time is short, not because God is impatient, but because the soul is precious. What you allow repeatedly will eventually shape you. What shapes you will guide you, and what guides you determines where you are going, even if you believe you are standing still. The greatest victories of darkness are not loud invasions, but quiet permissions. Nothing dramatic happens at once, no alarm sounds, no sudden collapse. Instead, there is a gradual spiritual anesthesia. A soul that once trembled at small compromises now negotiates with them. You still love God, you still believe, you still pray, but something has shifted inside, almost imperceptibly. The inner alarm that once warned you has been muted, not by rebellion, but by repetition. When the eyes continually absorb what the spirit was never meant to digest, discernment weakens. The heart begins to tolerate what it once rejected, and tolerance, when left unchecked, becomes agreement. Many people think spiritual danger only exists where there is obvious immorality, but Scripture reveals a deeper strategy. The enemy is content if holiness is merely postponed. He is satisfied when prayer is delayed, when the word is replaced by noise, when silence with God is substituted by endless voices, speaking opinions, fears, jokes and distorted values into your inner life. You are not being told to hate righteousness, you are being trained to find it unnecessary. Slowly the sacred becomes optional, reverence becomes old-fashioned, and spiritual vigilance is labeled as extremism. All the while the soul grows accustomed to living without the weight of eternity pressing on it. What enters through the eyes does not remain there. It travels inward. It settles quietly. Images become imagination. Repetition becomes normalization. Normalization becomes worldview. And before you realize it, your reactions have changed. What once grieved you now amuses you. What once alarmed you now feels familiar. The spirit still whispers, but the volume of other voices has been turned up so high that his gentle warnings are drowned out. Not because he stopped speaking, but because attention was redirected. This is how breaches form, not through an open invitation to evil, but through the slow erosion of spiritual alertness. The most deceptive part is the feeling of innocence. It's just a program. It helps me relax. Everyone watches this, but the soul does not process entertainment the way the mind justifies it. The soul absorbs atmosphere. It absorbs spirit. And every atmosphere carries a message. Some atmospheres invite peace that strengthens faith. Others bring comfort that weakens resistance. There is a rest that restores, and there is a rest that dulls. One draws you closer to God, the other quietly moves into the background. This is why many feel spiritually tired without knowing why. They are resting the body, while exhausting the spirit. God is not fragile, but the human heart is. That is why Scripture calls us to watch, to be sober, to remain alert, not paranoid, not fearful, but awake, because deception rarely announces itself. It prefers to blend in, to sound reasonable, to appear harmless. It convinces good people that vigilance is unnecessary. It whispers that small compromises do not matter, and slowly, affection for holy things weakens, hunger for the word fades, prayer becomes shorter, discernment becomes negotiable, and the soul, still believing it is safe, drifts. This warning is not meant to produce panic. It is meant to restore clarity, to help you recognize that spiritual life is shaped daily, quietly, by what you allow to dwell with you. The enemy does not need to steal your faith, if he can simply distract it. He does not need to destroy your belief, if he can dilute your devotion, and delusion always feels gentle at first. That is why this moment matters, not tomorrow, not someday. Now there is a reason the Scripture says the enemy disguises himself as an angel of light. Light does not alarm you. Light feels safe. Light feels familiar. That is why the danger today is not persecution, but sedation, not attack, but immersion. Many souls are not falling into darkness. They are slowly drifting into dimness, where nothing feels urgent anymore, where eternity no longer presses the heart, where the difference between sacred and common becomes blurred. You do not wake up one day rejecting God. You wake up one day indifferent to His nearness, and indifference is far more dangerous than open rebellion, because it convinces you that nothing is wrong. Think carefully about how often your inner world is being shaped without prayer, without Scripture, without discernment. Hours pass with voices teaching you how to feel, how to react, what to fear, what to laugh at, what to tolerate. These voices do not ask permission to instruct your soul. They assume access, and the soul is not guarded, receives instruction passively. This is how values shift quietly. This is how spiritual reflexes weaken. You may still confess truths with your mouth, but your inner responses tell a different story. What you repeatedly behold begins to rewrite what you instinctively believe. There was a time when believers were known for spiritual sensitivity, a time when small compromises caused discomfort, a time when the presence of God was precious, protected, prioritized. That sensitivity did not disappear overnight. It was traded away gradually for convenience, for routine, for comfort.
The danger was never in one moment, but in many unexamined moments strung together. The enemy understands this well. He is patient. He does not rush. He waits for familiarity to the work that fear once did. When something becomes familiar, it stops being questioned. And when it stops being questioned, it starts shaping. Many people wonder why discernment feels harder than it used to. Why decisions feel foggy. Why the line between right and wrong feels less sharp. This is not because truth has changed. It is because constant exposure to mixed messages confuses the inner compass. When the soul is fed daily with narratives that minimize holiness and glorify self, spiritual clarity weakens. You begin to rely more on emotion than conviction, more on comfort than obedience. And slowly the fear of displeasing God is replaced by the fear of being uncomfortable. Yet God in His mercy sends warnings before collapse. He speaks before loss becomes permanent. This stirring you feel now is not condemnation, it is love interrupting drift. A reminder that your soul is worth protecting, that your spiritual environment matters, that what you allow to dwell with you will eventually influence how you think, pray and respond. God does not demand perfection, but He does call for awareness. He does not ask for isolation, but He does require discernment. Because the heart was never designed to absorb everything without consequence. There is still time to recalibrate, to reawaken sensitivity, to choose intentionally what is allowed access to your inner life. Discernment is not about fear of the world, it is about reverence for God. It is choosing to value His presence more than passive comfort. It is deciding that peace of mind is not worth the dulling of the spirit. The more you guard what enters, the clearer His voice becomes. The clearer His voice becomes, the safer your path will be. Spiritual safety is not lost in dramatic moments, it is surrendered in quiet habits. The soul rarely collapses under pressure, but it often weakens under conflict. When vigilance fades, excess widens. When excess widens, influence grows, and influence over time reshapes desire. This is why many still attend worship, yet feel still read scripture, yet feel this person. Still read scripture, yet feel not moved. Still believe, yet sense the thing is in their inner life. Something has been holding the space where reverence once lived. Not aggressively, gently let it be, patiently, day after day. God has always warned His people to choose carefully what they dwell with, because dwelling is not neutral. Whatever you keep close begins to converse with you. Whatever converses with neutral begins to counsel you with point you with doesn't sugar. This is not about legalism. It is about alignment. The soul thrives when it is consistently exposed to truth, light and holiness. It weakens when it doesn't consistently exposed to truth, light and holiness. They ask God to restore your widen, but the word is patiently you will listen patient. They pray for clarity, but they keep feet out with speed will be rain surrounded by voices that stir fear, mock purity, normalize compromise. God is faithful, but He will override your children. He won't be convicted, He invites, that it does not see discernment with the distracted heart. That is why we wait to go with service. The goal is not to reach 6 feet of everything, but to live submitted will be spent with the Spirit. Discernment grows where the Spirit is honored. Sensitivity returns where the Prince opens the door. When the heart chooses again to fear the Lord more than it fears missing out, clarity comes back. The conscience softens. The word becomes alive again. Prayer deepens. Peace returns to larger peace of distraction, but the deep peace of alignment. This is the causes. This is for the deep peace of alignment. This is the awaken. This is the protection God offers. Dirty Northern, Golden North and powerless. Dirty Northern trapped. Dirty being invited to choose again. To guard the precious space of inner life. To decide that your soul is worth more than passive entertainment. To remember that eternal things are shaped by daily choices. The enemy loses ground all in long that light exposes strategy. And light is what God is releasing. The gentle but firm or cold it's sturdy. To value the presence of God above the comfort of habit. This is not because it's present above the comfort of habit. This is not because this is all it's clear, with physical folding. Choose awareness, choose vigilance. Choose to explode all the places for His patient. The soul that stays awake, remains His space. The heart that discerns the steady. And the light that always lost in the small things will be shaken greater once.